Want to know what the movers and shakers of New Hampshire's performing arts are thinking? Welcome to New Hampshire Unscripted with your host, Ray Dudley.
Hey, Ray.
We made it.
Yeah, how's it going?
Excellent. It's quite a library behind you there.
Oh, that's the sci-fi section. There's six more bookcases in the other room.
What? Okay, that's impressive.
That's what impressive. I do most of the time.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Watching video? Those are all videos?
No, those are books.
Oh, they're shiny. So I thought the spine was a...
Nope.
So you read all those... Are you a voracious reader?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
My goodness. It's like being in Disneyland for books.
Come on and browse.
Well, let me start off this way and say thank you so much for doing this.
You're very welcome.
Oh, man. I'm looking forward to it. Did you happen to hear any of Laura's?
Yep, I did. Oh. I've listened to Aaron and both Aaron's and White's as well. So
My goodness. So you know what you're in for.
Yeah, I think one of them told you I prepare.
That is correct. So let's start at the beginning, as Maria would say in Sound of Music, and chat a little bit about you. Since I don't know much about you, I have the feeling for some reason our paths have crossed several times, but I can't recall the specifics. But let's start with how you got the bite, the love for theater, where that came from, assuming you have it. And then I am intrigued about your decision to jump in to direct a play that had never been written. So take it away.
Okay. Way back in the dark ages. I'm actually originally from Rhode Island, born and brought up in Providence. And the bug, I want to say, hit really early on. I don't know if I can go so far back to say I was cast in the school play and Christmas play in first grade. And that sort of got it started. But I was also, I was also an only child. So I had a lot of time to myself. So I did a lot of reading and found these books. I don't know if you remember, there were little magazines that came out monthly called Plays. And they'd have like half a dozen different plays in them and different types. And I read those voraciously. And, being an only, you spend a lot of time in your own imagination. So I sat there and I, mentally envisioned all those things. And at some point when I was around 9 or 10, sat down and wrote a play for the summer reading program at the library, in which, as I said in the bio, was a very traumatic experience. Never decided to do it again. But moved on. We didn't really have plays in grade school, but I went on and did drama club in high school, which was an all-girls high school. So back in the 60s and 70s, when everybody had hair like Marsha Brady, I had short hair like this, so I got to play all the guys' parts, which was great because they were better. Same thing with college. Went to an all-women's college and did drama through there. And really, really got the bug and said, this is something I'd like to do. Not necessarily, I don't expect that I could be a leading actress. I'm not the ingenue type. This is the face of the best friend and the quirky sidekick. This is not the leading lady, and I accept that.
All right.
But my parents were dead set against that. It was like, well, go to college, you're going to go something that's going to earn you a living. So I really wanted to go to college and get the heck out of Providence. I caved. But, the back brain being a little rebellious said, well, you didn't tell me I couldn't do it as extracurricular. So that's how I stayed active with it. And then, during college, because I got married when I was a junior, between junior and senior year, got married, moved off, started married life and started a family. Didn't really have time for theater because I was toting kids around. And as they got older, they got involved with things. And interestingly, when they were in middle school, we were over in the Monadnock region, over in Antrim, Peterborough area. There was a program called National Dance Institute New Hampshire, which is now called New Hampshire Dance Institute. And I don't know if it's an offshoot of the program that was founded by Jacques d'Amboise in New York. And my oldest child auditioned for it in 5th grade and got cast in it. And what happens is the kids basically rehearse for an hour every week during school and learn a total of 4 numbers. So they learn an Act 1 piece, an Act 2 piece, an Act 1 finale, and an Act 2 finale. Then they come together with 10 other schools in May and put on a full show. So sort of similar to the 7-day plays thing, where it's like they only meet together on Tech Week. And they do a full show, and it's impressive enough. They did it over at Keene State College, and they bring in professional musicians from New York. The musical director is, oh my gosh, his name escapes me at the moment. But he's like a Oscar, Emmy award-winning director. So the kids really get exposed to the best of the best. Wow. And my daughter fell in love with that and was, crying copiously at the end of the last performance. And I said, "Oh, gee, do you think you want to take dance lessons?" She was like, "Yeah, I do." So we got involved. I became a dance mom for a number of years. So, 1 hour of class a week grew to like 4 hours of classes, 6 nights a week. So I didn't have time for theater because I was being ballet mom. And I can't critique it because, she won a dance scholarship to college. So, I can't complain. Yeah. It was worth it. But as she started getting older and her brother came along into that program, and then my younger child went into the program. So all told, between the 3 of them, I was involved with that program for 10 years as a dance mom, as a board member. So I spent a lot of time making costumes and watching people dance. And as they got older, I could be left on there, and I started trying to get back in theater a little bit about mid-90s over in Antrim and Peterborough, and worked with Actors Circle Theater and Antrim Players and did some shows with them. And late 2000s, we ended up, for business reasons, my husband's job transferred him to the coast. And we decided, we packed up and we sort of split the difference because I was still working in Peterborough and he was working in Massachusetts. So we sort of split the difference and settled here in Derry, and been here since about 2000, and didn't really have time for theater for a number of years. So I didn't really start getting back active in it until, 2011-ish, I think, with Wyndham Actors Guild and Arsenic and Old Lace. I think Dwight mentioned that we weren't together in that show. Yeah. So I was his Aunt Abby to his Mortimer. And it took a while. I did a couple shows here and there. Would get maybe 1 show every year or so, every other year, until about 2019, when I was fortunate enough to get four shows in a year. Dang. Which, oh my God, never again. 4 shows is too many. I think I was permanently exhausted, but they were amazing. I've met amazing people, and it's just been a blast. But, then COVID hit, and as that was going on, actually, just as that was going on, I had gotten involved with Hatbox as a member of their pitch committee, and I was reading scripts that came in, and was asked if I could sort of take on a couple additional things to help Andrew out as he was moving over to Claremont Opera House. And I sort of took on getting the spreadsheets ready and tracking who read what, and, creating the forms to send out to people to sign up for pitch and that sort of thing. So I'm doing a lot of paperwork and spreadsheet manipulation behind the scenes, and it's fine because that's sort of what I do in real life. Yeah. A lot of the time. So that's, plays to one of the strengths of being an anal retentive tracking sort of person. And then came Play in a Day, and I finally got to meet Ray Dudley.
You're kind. So kind. The sticking with the acting thing just for a second before we get into 7 days. Is there a role that there aren't many left, I think, for some of us as we move on? They're becoming slimmer and slimmer. Mm-hmm. Something still out there that you would maybe like to be tagged for?
Well,
anything in the old...
There's something on my bucket list, and it will probably always stay on my bucket list because I don't see anybody ever doing it. And that's Hecuba. Not Trojan Women, but Hecuba by Euripides. And I've only because I've pulled monologues out of it. Just because there's certain scenes where she talks about her daughter as her daughter lies dying in her arms, which is like just the chance to go whole hog. And it's like, she's my life, she's my Troy, she's my everything. How can you do this to me? It's like, yeah, I've wanted the role since I was in my early 30s when I was way too young for it. And now depending how old you cast the daughters, I'm probably still on the far end of too old for it, but que sera, sera.
You could always direct it.
We'll talk about that later.
Your resume's building.
Well, I don't think one show constitutes a resume.
Shh, we won't tell anyone. So the 7-day plays, it's a very, very intriguing project. I'm so glad Aaron did it. How did he tap you for that?
He actually tapped me initially to act in it. And I just sort of looked at him and said, a whole script in a week? Okay, are you sure? Do you need a director? Because, if I had a choice, I'd rather try directing it.
Is that true?
Oh, yeah.
You did that?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Simply because I had done the 48-hour film festival with him the year previous with oh my gosh, with Aaron and Mary and Sandra Avellano and Avi Agostino and Lowell Williams. It's a stellar cast. And here's me popping in here, I know, a little out of my element, trying to learn lines in a day. Sorry, Lowell, they were in the neighborhood of what you wrote, but weren't quite right.
Good thing they're not copyrighted.
Yeah.
So let me get this straight. You had the chance to just kind of learn some lines in a play that hadn't been written yet. And you turned that down to direct a play that hadn't been written yet with a cast you had no idea what you could end up with and a prop that you had no idea that was going to be there. And you're okay with that.
It proves I'm crazy. Proves I'm crazy.
You are way beyond what I would never direct. I'm not a director. I don't have the whatever it takes. I don't have the vision. I stick in my lane. That took courage. To me, that took courage.
Yeah. Well, I guess also it helped prove that, if you rust, you rot. You got to try something new.
Dang,
and it was way out of my comfort zone. So it's like, people have asked me to do things like that before. And I said, I don't have the background. I would be comfortable taking on directing a full-fledged production. But I said, this is one of 4 plays. It's like the entire night does not rest on me. I'm only a cog in that whole thing. So it's like, okay, that's okay.
This thing was littered with potential minefield. And you're okay with all of these unknowns.
Stuff. Well, I got one of those minefields.
Good point.
Yeah.
So let's start at day 1. You say yes, and you'll direct, but you don't know what the play is. Actually, nobody does until that Saturday. When did you get the script, and when you read it, what was your reaction to that?
Okay. Well, what happened is, Laura and I got the scripts as new directors. We got the scripts from the experienced writers at 3:00 on Sunday. So we both read those because the premise was that as a new director, they would give us an experienced writer. So we had somebody who knew what was going on, along with having, 2 experienced actors. And so that we knew that Laura and I had to choose between either of those 2 plays. And basically, being pretty good friends, we discussed it beforehand and said, okay, well, if we both like different plays, that's great. That'll work out fine. But if we both like the same one, what are we going to do? And I just sort of looked at her and said, rock, paper, scissors. As fair as anything.
Beats Jello wrestling. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't think there's enough Jello in Concord. But so I sat down and read the plays, and they're both amazing. And I think as Laura said too, it's like I could visualize both of them immediately. And one of them they both struck me with terror because they both had their own challenges.
Yeah.
And when we discussed it, it actually didn't take all that long. I said, I like them both, and I will be happy with whichever one I end up with. I'm sort of leaning toward one, but I won't tell you which one, Laura, because I want to know if you have strong feelings one way or the other. And she said, yeah, I really, just like I can see Greg's play in my mind. I can see everything that needs to happen. I said, okay, good, because I was leaning toward Gary's play.
You were?
I was leaning towards Gary's from day one. Yay, Gary. Not that anything is wrong with Greg's. I loved Greg's. I thought it was hysterically funny. But the whole challenge of blocking that wrestling scene just terrified me.
Dude, you are a warrior. I cannot believe you. This is incredible. You're fearless.
Well, no, I wouldn't say fearless. No.
Well, you're bordering on it then. My God.
I looked at it and said, that is a wicked challenge for an actor. And I knew at that point it was Ian and Melanie. And I said, poor Ian has got some incredible monologues. They're beautifully written, but oh my God, these are major exposition info dumps. And to learn even one of them in 7 days would have been amazing. And he nailed all of them.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Yeah. I was sweating for him backstage watching him. My God.
Mm-hmm. It was interesting. But I said, I like that one. I don't know why it was I could sort of relate to it. Maybe because of all the sci-fi in the back.
Yeah, you think?
I think that's why I was drawn to that one.
Wow.
Plus the stories about Mozart and the Allegri's Miserere, which when I listened to it, it's I sang that in the choir loft.
Really?
I didn't realize it at the time. It's I know that. Okay, so we're good. And it was just so poignant that it brought me to tears when I read it. This is the one. It just spoke to me. So
that is amazing. That is amazing. Kudos to you. I mean that, because watching it, I thought, Mama, I am glad that I didn't end up falling into that play, because it just seemed like a heavy lift.
It was scary. And I will say, in all honesty, I'm so glad I got to direct it rather than have to act it.
Oh,
because I had the easy part. They had the difficult part. And kudos to them, because they pulled it off. And I will say anything that failed to deliver was not on them. It's on me.
Mm. When you looked at the cast, had you worked with Ian or Melanie?
I had not worked with Ian. I'd worked with Melanie, twice at least that I know. Yeah, twice. We had done a murder mystery at Majestic that was directed by Kelsey Dominy.
Oh.
And we'd also done on Golden Pond together at Bedford, where she played my daughter. So it was, we get to work together again. No matter what, I would have worked with somebody I knew, because I knew Dwight from the other group, but not Valerie. So Laura and I had been told that it wasn't mandatory for us to attend the Saturday session where the writers met the actors.
Yeah.
But we, being newbies, said, let's go to see who gets what, because we figured we know that we'll be working with either Gary or Greg. So let's see who their actors are, just so we narrowed down the field of those 10 or 11 actors. So we knew, we'd be working with 2 of those 4.
Mm.
And just to see what was going on, and then watching them pick their props and getting their mandatory line. And I have to tell you that I was expecting something completely different from Gary when he picked the saxophone, because I know Gary's love of puns, and I was expecting something that was going to use the line about safe sax or something. So when I opened this up and started reading and came up with something totally different, it was okay, this is not what I expected, but this is really good.
Yeah, I'm with you. Of course, I didn't know anything about what Gary had written until I saw it, like the audience. So I was stunned by how cerebral this play was. And as it was going on, this is probably, we could have had this later in the conversation, but since we're there, as someone standing backstage, my mind kept thinking, where is this going? What is happening here? He had me questioning. My head could not get around what was going on. And I'm with you. I didn't expect that from Gary. I'm thinking the same thing. He's a punster. He's this happy-go-lucky, always jovial person. I hope that's true. Sorry, Gary, if that's not true. But that's what I had expected a comedy out of it. I had no idea what was coming up.
Yeah, I mean, there were comedic bits of it, but it was by and large very, very cerebral and very thought-provoking.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as the pages went through, I'm looking at this going, is he a terrorist? What's going on? How does he know all this stuff? You're literally like turning the pages because I can't wait to see what comes next. Then he says, I'm a construct. And it's like, whoa. Okay, now this is taking an interesting twist. Where is this going? And just sort of followed down, willingly jumped down that rabbit hole with him. This is really cool.
So you jump into this construct that he's created. How long did it take you to kind of visualize your setup, how you wanted this whole thing to look? Because as a director, it's your job to create this picture for the audience. You have it in your mind. Hopefully it's what the author had in mind, but how long did it take you to put that together? Well,
the initial set layout, almost immediately upon finishing the script, I could see, knowing what the Hatbox looked like and knowing that we're working with things on three sides is, okay, how can I set this so that everybody sees everything without, having somebody stare at somebody's back the entire time? Because part of me is looking at this going, oh, this is almost like trying to block 12 angry jurors. You have two people at a table. Yeah. You've got to do something to make this interesting. And Gary was very sparing in his stage directions. Basically, we had Agent Gabriel coming in the door and going to the table, and then a couple places where they were specifically told to sit. Then at one point, it was, as the actors continue, they rise and begin circling, trying to establish dominance. And it's like, oh, okay, so we're going to be getting up and, what I called doing walkies every once in a while. I said, okay, well, how are we going to make that interesting? That's about all you can do if you have people sitting at a table. At some point, they've got to get up and walk around and do something to break the monotony of sitting and staring at people sitting at a table all night.
Yeah.
I don't know that I succeeded 100% in getting that done. I wish I had more time to do that because I'm not entirely happy with the way I did it. And I would probably be tweaking it up until curtain, except I knew that's not fair to the actors. So we sort of set it in stone Thursday. I said, okay, we're not going to tweak it anymore. But it's never going to come out the way that you want it entirely, I think. I had to at one point say, I know enough to know that I have to freeze it at some point, preferably soon enough that they can be comfortable with it. And that even if it's not 100% of what I want, it's the best I can do for now. So I just have to accept it and just polish that little best I can do for now to get that up to as good as possible. So I think the actors were amazing. And again, any faults, anything that didn't work well, it's not on them. It's on me because I'm the one who told them to do that. So
what were your rehearsals like? Well, the first few until you hit your mind.
Yeah.
It
was amazing. Not having directed, I can't tell you what kind of a director I think I am. I'm hoping I was collaborative. But the first thing I said was, do you want to sit down and do a read through or do you want to get on your feet right away? Because, I'm fine with either. I wanted to see essentially how they would move without any direction because there are times that, these are both two very, very, very good actors. They've got good actorly instincts. So I wanted to see what compelled them to get up and move where, because I felt that most of the time they were probably going to make a very good decision just based on the way they handled their characters.
Instinctively.
Yeah, very instinctive. And I wanted to look at that and say, they're the ones who are building their characters. So I want them to be true to their characters. So how they walk, how they talk is going to be based on how they're building their character. Let's see if it fits with what I envisioned. And it came out, very close. I said, okay, this is great. My concept is, okay, the wall is here. I want you standing there. I want the table over here. Come in on this end and go. And then they just did their thing. It's like, okay, that's not too bad. And I just basically said, okay, let's make a couple changes. And I would say, I want you to turn on this line as opposed to that line. And on this, I think there were only a couple places where I said, I want you to do this here. And for a lot of it, when Ian was having his long speeches, I said, you need to pace. And he had told me that he learns like when he's walking, and he learns his lines while he's walking. So I said, okay, great. If you spool it in while you're walking, it'll probably help to unspool and walk while you're saying it too. Mm-hmm. So that's why we said these long speeches are going to be done, being very professorial and walking them. But I don't want you to do it the same way every single time. So about day 3, I looked at him and said, be like a bee, just wander all over. As long as you get to this point at this line, I don't care how you get there. Just don't do it the same way you did on your previous walk. Because I don't want to watch you walking from left to right and back again every single time. Just do it a little differently every single time. Yeah. So I gave him the freedom to play with it, and he took it.
Ian's character, of all the plays, his vocal choice, it was very staccato, very I don't want to say mono, but there was a deliberate deliverance there. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Was that his decision, or was that written in that way?
No, I believe that was his decision. I think he took the word construct and went with that and made it that alien character. At one rehearsal, he and Melanie and Mary had commented that he thought it was like a certain character whose name escapes me, and it's from a show that I don't watch. It's some sort of sci-fi robot android type character, and whom everybody else recognized but me, because I'm the wrong generation. And
yet I look at what's behind you.
I don't watch TV. What can I say?
Fair enough.
So the TV references are lost on me.
All right.
But he sort of took that monotone of that character, but then used that very precise diction of like a data and put that in there. Yeah. And just I think it informed his walk as well, because he did not take a normal easy stride. He had very deliberate, very small steps, almost as though this was a new process for him as well. And I liked it. It fit with his character being not from here. Mm-hmm. And I said, it's not what I imagined, but I like it and it works. So we're going to keep it. Mm. And I think that's the first he's ever heard me say that. He says, I had no criticism with it, so I didn't say anything. It worked for me because it accentuated his difference from Agent Gabriel.
Yeah. Yeah. This is an interesting play because along with that, it's not robotic. It's not monotone really. It's very matter of fact-ish speak. And he matched it. So he really walked this fine line. His body was never over emotive. It was very matter of fact, purposeful what he was doing. And his answers were very precise. I'm guessing that's Gary. But it was a very interesting play. I mean, we compare it to what was preceding it with Dwight and them. I mean, this couldn't be on a further end of the spectrum here. Mm-hmm.
It's like a complete 180.
Yes.
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 Yep.
If you think about the action in the scene, it's all coming from the detective, and which is kind of interesting. And matter of fact, I hope I'm not giving anything away. It's not like we're going to see this again next week, but she runs out of the office at one point. Is that in there as well? I mean, she takes off and just starts looking for people.
Yep. Everything you saw was as written.
Man,
I think the only unwritten part, how can I phrase this, is when you heard the name calling. The names were her choice because Gary had written she runs out. You can hear her down the hall calling out various names, and so she chose the names or the titles that she called. And I think our only comment was we said let's keep away from Jones, Smith, and Brown. Let's put some true diversity in those names that you pick, please. That's all I ask. On the names you choose. And
did you think that how do I put this? Did you ever think that wouldn't work where she runs out like up through the vom and around the?
No.
Did you ever have a feeling like this could turn out hokey or whatever?
early on, we had thought about doing it as a pre-recorded, just have her run off and have the sound effects of her calling and the sound of footsteps receding and coming back. We were going to plan on doing something on that on Thursday when, our bomb dropped on us, and we said, okay, we're going to do that live now.
We might as well go there.
Yeah.
About the bomb that dropped. So go ahead and address that and how you found out and how much panic, how long were you frozen with fear?
3:00 on Thursday, Mom. I got a message from Aaron and Mary saying, have you heard from Melanie yet? And my first thought was, no, what's happened? Because I knew that her wife had not been well, and I thought something might have happened to Laura. That was my first thought. And he said, no, she has COVID. And said, oh, and this may sound horrible. My first thought was actually, I was relieved that something had not happened to Laura.
Yeah, physically or whatever.
Okay,
yeah.
It's COVID. Okay, we can deal. I have no choice. I have to deal.
Yeah.
Okay. So then he said, can you hop on a messenger meet with me? He said, yep, sure. Because I'd planned for the 7-day play festival. I planned to take the week off from work because I said, if I'm going to do this in 7 days, I can't focus on anything else I have to be 100% devoted to this. So I was available. We hopped on a meeting with Mary and Aaron, and he said, well, what are we going to do? Do you know anybody? And it's like, and his first thought was, how are you feeling? I said, well, I'm sort of gobsmacked. He said, no, physically. I said, don't take my blood pressure right now because I probably would spike through the roof because I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe this. But I'm glad it's only COVID because I know that Melanie, takes good care of herself. So she's fully boosted. So life is good. As far as that goes, it's like, okay, we got hit with something. We have to deal with it. We have no choice. So what do we do? And then it was, we need to bring Ian in on this. So they texted Ian, is Ian available? So Ian hopped into the message with us, and he got told that that Melanie had COVID, and was asked about if he knew any actresses would be available. And he sort of leaned back and said, Kelsey, can you come here a sec? And that's how Kelsey got drafted.
That is not what I was expecting.
God bless her.
I'm thinking the call's going to go out. The phones are going to be ringing. People are scrambling. This dude just leans back in his chair and reaches into his back pocket. Good grief. Pulls
out that amazing actress that he happens to be married to. So it's like, and I've worked with Kelsey before. So I like, oh, awesome. You're available. Thank you, God. Like, thank you, Kelsey. Thank you, Ian. Okay, see you tonight.
Oh my God.
So Kelsey came in Thursday night. She basically had a quick 10-minute blocking walkthrough of this is, here's this, here's the door, here's the window, come in here, go out there, sit here on this side of the table, and here's our blocking, get up here, go there. And she ran it twice, pretty much had it down pat, because Agent Gabriel doesn't do a lot of walking around.
Yeah.
And came back. She was different from Melanie. Her persona is a little different. Again, different younger woman. So she presented the character a little bit differently because she's at a different stage in her life. So it came across a little differently. It was still a very valid interpretation. I like both of them. She had, I will say, maybe a little more obviously snarky than Melanie's interpretation. I think Melanie had a drier sort of sarcasm, and Kelsey's was more of a nudge, 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 poke in the side sort of thing. But that's also functional because she was married to Ian, so she could push the boundaries with him a little bit more, I think. So there's times at points I said, okay, well, I'd like to change this one little piece of blocking where I had Melanie doing this. I'd like you, if you're comfortable with this, to really get right up into his face when you say this, like as close as you can comfortably get. And she said, oh, yeah, no problem. And she did that for me. So I think that was the only thing that we really changed in it, just to bring her up that much closer to him for a confrontation. So
this is interesting because you don't often see two different, let's say, interpretations of the same script at the same time, because most of the time you'll see somebody, it'll be in another production.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, they do it this way, but you have this opportunity here. You could have been very stagnant and said, no, this is the way it had been done. And you need to follow these parameters, but being open to her interpretation, that I think that speaks volumes, because you could have really put the hammer down. You only had like one day to go. So now you're willing to work with this whole different, her adaptation of what she's read, obviously, read into this character. That's
well, you had to see it. I mean, because she came in and she was not words on a page. She from the very first reading, she was breathing life into that character, and it was, like I said, a different sort of energy, and it was as good in its own way, completely different from the interpretation that Melanie had, and they're both valid, and I love them both. I'd love to do them side by side, but it was something that I also can't look a gift horse in the mouth. I had an actress come in, knowing that she was coming in with 4 rehearsals.
Yeah.
And putting up a show the next, in 48 hours at that point. So for her, it was a 48-hour festival. I'm not going to quibble over interpretations. With what she was doing was good, and I was perfectly happy with it.
Yeah. Obviously, you gave her the leeway to be on book for as much as she had to be, right? But,
yeah, that was a given. Like from the very first conversation, we said, oh yeah, she's, whoever comes into that part has to be on book for it. And I think the only thing I said was, if there is any way that, and I know this is short notice and it's a big ask, if you can do the telephone conversation off book, I would be thrilled to death. But I know it's a big ask with 2.5 days. If you can't do it, that's fine, because we're in extraordinary circumstances.
Yeah.
Not only did she come in off book for that part, she had the entire rest of of that show off book.
Yeah.
And it blew me away. And I think it made that phone call that much more powerful, because she was hands-free. And that's the only thing I was trying to get out of that, was to bring people into that moment so that she wasn't looking at the book, so that you could see her face as she went through that, the terror and shock and relief and disappointment of that phone conversation. And to see that face, as opposed to seeing, what was left of her with her face in the book. I wanted the audience to see that. And I'm beyond thrilled that she was able to do that for me.
Yeah,
and I feel like
well.
I owe you forever, Kelsey.
You, for the most part, you couldn't even tell she was on book. I mean, it worked so well into, the fact that she was, it just looked like something a detective would be doing, going through their notes and that kind of thing. And so it melded very well into the play.
We had cheat sheets, actually. From the beginning, I had cheat sheets in the folders with the lines that occurred at that point when they were referring to that particular folder for that particular event, just in case they had a problem. Okay, there's the lines there in as big a type as I can print. But somebody also said to me when they were looking at her with the book, they said, "Oh, I thought that was her dossier that she was referring to." It's like,
yeah,
absolutely, it was her dossier. Yeah, we planned that.
So, did you guys have a dark night? You did not?
No. Well, because of the circumstances, no. We had we had Mel for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Kelsey came in Thursday and Friday, and then we went to tech on Saturday. And we were first up on Saturday. We quit Friday after 2 run-throughs because we knew we had early call. I said, I want you guys to be able to get home and get some sleep. I'll see you in less than 12 hours at the theater. Except that I was going to be seeing Ian because Kelsey had to work.
Oh, that's right.
In among everything else, Kelsey was gracious enough to step in at the last minute, but she couldn't be available for tech because she was scheduled to work that morning. So tech was Ian alone, and Greg and myself. So again, I sort of looked at Ian and said, "There's a lot of unspooling you do," and we found that the more we ran it, the more difficult, like you sort of lose it. You had so many iterations in you before you'd start to lose it. Said, I don't want you to waste everything in tech rehearsal. Said, do you want to run anything? And he said, no, I'm good. It's like, okay, good. Let's save it for the show. So basically we checked the lights and the sound cues. Took maybe 15 or 20 minutes on it because it was lights up, lights down pretty much.
Yeah.
And said, okay, we're done. We'll see Kelsey when she comes in at 1:30 and go live at 2.
Woo. I know
again,
we were
good
backstage.
thing nobody had a blood pressure cuff on me.
Oh my God, I can imagine. I mean, we were backstage and there were people coming back asking Ian, is she here yet? Is she here yet? He's like, no, she's coming from work. And he was just as laid back as could be, but he was the only one, I think.
Yep. I was not laid back, but I figured I did not want to add to any stress that Ian might be feeling. So I tried to stay away. Ian, if you thought I was being standoffish, no, I was trying not to add to stress levels. So I'm not going to get in his face. He has lines. So the play goes up and it went well. How do you feel the audience reacted to it or accepted it? I don't know. Again, because the audience is like largely composed of friends, and I was sitting with a number of friends from a couple of theater groups who were, very nice, very complimentary. So of course, being good friends, they said all the appropriate nice things. Right. So I didn't really talk to other folks. I don't really know. My big concern was hoping that Gary liked it and that I didn't, mangle his prose too much for him. I'd love to pick his brain and the brains of the other directors because I know there are things I did not do as well as I could have. So I would love to have like a post-mortem after it's too late to do anything to say, how could I have improved this? Are you saying you haven't spoken to Gary? No, I haven't. You haven't? No. I mean, we had a brief hi, he gave me a hi, thank you. He liked it after the show, but, we have not had a big in-depth conversation. And I, would love to have that with him or with any other director to sit there and basically, nitpick it, take it apart, put it back together and show me what I could have done better. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. So sticking with that point, you watched it. It went, I assume, as well as it could go. And now you've had a chance to look back or at least, think about it a little bit more. Are there things now that you didn't see or didn't catch that you're like, oh man, that would have been so easy to just do that? Or, is there something as you look back that you really wish you had done or seen or worked on a little bit more? Well, again, there's spots that I know didn't come out quite right. Simply, I felt that the walkie-talkies, were not as good as they could have been, but I don't know what I could have done to vary it. And we tried different directions. We tried whatever, getting up at different points in time, just changing directions. I don't know what could have been done. I'm sure something could have been, too late now, but I'd love to, sit down and talk with people to say, maybe if you tried that. Like, yeah, I simply hadn't thought of it. And I will say I did bring it into a rehearsal. I said, okay, it's turned to Mary and said, okay, what do you think? This isn't working right for me. What do you think? And she sort of looked at me and said, I'm the stage manager. I'm not the director. It's like, I know. I'm soliciting input. You have a different set of eyes. What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? So, I'm willing to take suggestions. Doesn't mean I'll listen to them, but, I'd want to get somebody else's viewpoint. What are you seeing? Yeah. Because I'm coming to it with that particular viewpoint. And being that it's a project that I was given as opposed to a passion project, I want to say I was not invested in that play to say that it has to be done this way because this is how I envision it. I've spent months and years working on this and developing it. Yeah. No, I got it on Sunday. I like it. I like it a lot. I can see things with it, but, I didn't have the chance to really go in depth and analyze it and pick it apart and, make it a passion project. So I'm very willing to entertain suggestions and input on it. It's like, what can we do to make it better? Why is this, what can we fix here? I asked Laura yesterday, and I want to ask you as well. I guess I could ask every director, but as a first time, after you watched all 4, I assume, are you happy now with your choice that you
took Gary's, or are there other plays that you're like thinking, oh man, what I could have done with that one, or thank God I didn't get that one,
Oh gosh. I mean, I don't think I would have changed, because having seen the productions, I think every one of them was handled beautifully.
Mm.
And I don't think that I would have wanted to change a single thing of the way that they were presented, because they were each striking in their own uniqueness.
Yeah.
So, I wouldn't want to gild the lily. I like them as they are. I wouldn't change a thing about them.
I love them too. I really did. So how do you feel about directing now?
I think Laura had said it's a heck of a lot easier than acting, I tell you. But
if you have the right actors, it is.
Yeah,
but...
and I can't say I got the luck of the draw, because any actor in that group would have been amazing, because that was like the creme de la creme of local theater. And I think any director would have been pleased to have any of those actors in their cast. So
yeah, I think Aaron did an excellent job setting up all the directors with a great cast.
Yes. Yeah, and I will say I love the selection process, because it guaranteed absolute fairness. I mean, there's nothing you can say about random draw of the card.
Literally,
Lady Luck had 100% decision making in this. So, it wasn't that there was any favoritism that, certain actors picked, or certain writers picked directors or actors that they've always worked with.
Yeah.
It's like, here are the cards. This is the hand you were dealt. Go and write that play.
Yeah.
So,
would you do it again?
Absolutely. In a heartbeat.
Well said. Well said. Anything I didn't cover? Anything you'd like to cover?
Oh, can't think of anything.
All right. Well, I love these chats. I really, really do. I love speaking. I love freshness. I love the way actors are so creative, and I love the input. I love their processes. I love the whole. I'm not very good. There are people who do have wonderful niches and stuff, like yourself, the sci-fi thing, and Gary and Peter Josephson, and they're out of my league. And so I love to pick the brains of all of these people like yourself who just love what you're doing. We're so glad to have you here, and what you had done. I appreciate the time you've spent here evaluating, enumerating, opening.
Oh, well, it's also sort of like a favorite child now. The new favorite child you don't really want to say goodbye to. So it's nice to keep talking about it. So hopefully Gary can expand this into a full-length play.
Gary, are you listening? Are you
Gary?
listening? And
Gary?
She needs to talk with you, Gary.
No, I think Ian needs to talk with Gary more than anybody. I don't know if he's going to be able to listen to Mozart for a while.
That's an interesting choice, too. What a beautiful piece, though.
Mm-hmm. Gary had said it came up in a dinner conversation that he'd had with people many years ago. And I don't remember the exact text of that conversation, but apparently somebody had said to him that words to the effect of, and I'm not quoting correctly, and I apologize, Gary, that the existence of Mozart is proof that there's a God.
Oh.
Or words to that effect. And it's like, ooh, yeah.
Funny the things you tuck away in the back, huh? Never knowing when you'll need them.
Trot that out. I'm not sure how it related to a saxophone, because I don't think Mozart ever wrote for sax, but...
I was really afraid he was going to open that thing up and start playing it. I had no idea
we had some discussions about there's no way that you could not pay me enough money to open up an old sax that who knows where it's been and put my mouth on something that's got mold all over it. No.
Okay, that's a different picture than I had in mind, but I guess it's true.
Now, having played a wind instrument, I'm not going to go touch anybody else's mouthpiece.
Oh, man. It's an interesting thought. Okay. Well, Mary, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
It.
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I will get this out as quickly as I can. It's the holiday weekend, so I'm going to try my best to, hammer them out and entertain family in the meantime. But I'll let you know when it's posted, so you can kind of give it a thumbs up, thumbs down, and yes, release, or please cut something out. Okay.
No problem.
All right. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
I really appreciate it.
Hopefully we'll see you on stage soon.
Yeah, I hope so. You got to do more before the clock stops,
Yes, there's a certain number of roles that are left for
yes,
the gray hairs. So
yes.
and as Laura and I commented, we're always up in that little niche of let's politely say actresses over 50. There's a very talented group, and basically we both pray that all the other actresses are busy so we have a shot.
Isn't that interesting how the pool gets bigger, but the roles get smaller? Come on, writers. We need some stuff. We need this.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right, Mario. Thank you so much.
Oh, you're very welcome. Take care and stay safe.
Yeah, thank you. Have a great holiday weekend.
And you too.
All right. Bye-bye.
And there you go. Another great one in the tank. That one's going off to the memorial. Have a great day.